Italy knows the power of Recon for naval warfare. That's good. It's going to cause problems.
That it does. And I just love the cruiser build. I absolutely love the... I think he's going with the light attack CAs. Yes, he is. And light attack CA is just the absolute naval meta right now. I mean, it's a CA with one heavy battery, full light attack on the top row, so that's your light cruiser batteries, and then no armor. At the end of the day, they're a heavy ship. You don't get damaged by light attack, and they just absolutely shred through destroyers and other type of screening ships.
Somewhat more difficult to do is Italy. I'd actually prefer to see that build on Germany than have Italy go full sub, because unless you take Suez in this rule set, you're not allowed out of the Mediterranean, which means those cruisers are useless.
That's true. I mean, at the end of the day, that also really depends on the level of aggression that the UK is willing to show. I mean, there is the way to play the UK where you obviously play like very... I'd almost say timid, where you just use your navy defensively, like you set one up as a strike force around the the Isles, and you set one up as a strike force outside Gibraltar and kind of just hold that. But you also have players who like to go for the early domination, who just grab one of their... Usually you'll divide your navy up in two. One of the... You'll call it your main navy with like all your new ships and your carriers and whatnot, and you'll use that defensively, but then also have a navy that's in the med to kind of wrestle for domination. And I've seen it a few times in this tournament where people actually did that, and the UK in one of the games I casted actually won that way. They literally obliterated the Italian Navy in 1940 while they were trying to convoy escort their troops retreating from Africa. Yeah. So I think this Italy player, I think he's willing to commit to the defense of the Mediterranean and the probable and or possible sally forth after they take Cairo. You just never know. Like I think they're committed to fighting the Africa War, and I think they want to be prepared for what comes next.
Oh yeah, Italy always goes in really hard for Africa in this. So does Germany. Germany's really good at supporting that. One thing which I am noticing, which does worry me a little bit, is the UK has done no naval tech at all. Not even depth charge and active sonar. Now, ordinarily, if I play as the UK, I like to get those early so I can start refitting my destroyers.
I mean, it also depends. Like, I haven't really checked if any of the other allied nations are building ASW. This is the reason you obviously mentioned the def stuff, whatnot, is for ASW, right?
Yeah.
Anti-submarine warfare.
Yep.
There is, there are... I'm not sure if you do this with AC Canada. Usually you don't, but there's a, playstyle where you can have Canada do anti-sub warfare. But at the end of the day, one thing that's key here is the US has invested a lot in attack bombers, right? And ASW ships aren't the only way to counter submarines. Very meta strategy at the moment is you simply grab attack bombers, you put down a level 6 radar somewhere, and they will do this exact same job as the ASW ships will. And by working it that way, it frees you up to build things like roach DDs and/or which are DDs with a minimal amount of armament on it, so that they're as cheap as possible, and you can simply have their shields for your big ships. And it also allows you to do more converting, and I think refitting. And I think that's what they're going to do here.
Yeah, they are building some very, very cheap, very, very fast Tier 2 destroyers at the moment. With torpedoes, guns, and Tier 2 engine, that's it. No ASW at all.
It's the Defender class destroyer. I've actually had the opportunity to witness those in combat, I think like 2 or 3 times now. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think it's a bit of a lazy build going Roach DDs. It's not really that interesting. It just means that you're going to be using your starting navy. I assume he's going to refit a lot of it. I already saw a lot of CAs and BBs being queued, and he's probably just going to go for the passive techs later on in the game. Like, he's using this time to grind his naval XP, and then what you'll see him do is grab small caliber semi-armor piercing and all the other passive naval techs that just boost your ships or navy passively rather than give them new components.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit worried that this isn't going to work for him, because yes, you can use the tactical bombers and naval bombers to protect your convoys, but this Italy and this Germany are not idiots. They don't just park their fleet off your coast. They go into the middle of the Atlantic where the planes just can't reach.
Exactly. And well, I mean, one easy or quote-unquote easy way to ensure that you don't get cut off by that is what a lot of teams will do pre-game is they will decide whether or not they trade through the northern route, which is around Iceland, Greenland, and then Canada, or the southern route, which is through the Gulf of Mexico all the way down to Cape Verde Plain and then back up to the Bay of Biscay throughout the Iberian coast. And what they'll do is they'll build radar stations on provinces they own along this route, and then they'll deploy their planes from there. Now, let's be fair. Attack bombers, they've got a reasonable range, especially if you uprange them. And the UK specifically, which is usually also the player that goes for radar, has two very well-placed provinces to deal with subs from there. I mean, obviously, up near the Iberian coast, they've got the Azores, you're looking at Gambia, and you've got British Guiana, which you can all equip with an airport and level 6 radar. And trust me, submarines are not going to be that useful once they're covered by attack bombers.
True. How do you feel about mixing Recon planes into that? Because they have the better spotting stat.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's always good to have both options available to you. But
because what I usually do is I have one military factory on Recon planes for the entire game, and that's usually enough for any Recon needs I have. Because that's one thing, kind of like espionage, I don't find that many players investing in Recon. I think it's invaluable.
I think Recon is very useful, but they are limited by something that radar isn't, which is range. I believe radar 6 has more range and therefore more coverage than Recon planes do. Correct me if I'm wrong though, but I'm fairly certain they do.
Tier 1s probably, but the Tier 2s I think actually have 50% more than like attack bombers do, something like that. Tier 2 Recon has a really, really long range, like bordering on strat bomber range.
When it comes to attack bombers, I just open it. So
I was just looking at myself.
Yep. So you got the Mosquito PR, for example, for the US. They've got a max range of 1700, and the Bristol Beaufort, which is the TAC 2, already has 2,500 kilometers. So I think radar might be more beneficial, but it also depends on the size of the tile, really. I mean, we're just nitpicking at this point.
Yes.
At the end of the day, both are very valuable strategies, and I think both will result in a lot of submarine kills. And it definitely does free you up to be a little more inventive with your navy. And that's why I mentioned the fact that I find the Roach DD strategy to be a little boring and a little, I don't know, a little too vanilla. I would have liked to have seen the UK, use this, ability to produce something else with their dockyards to not go Roach DDs and instead do something a little more exciting.
I mean, one thing which I did see in the second game last week was Britain had very, very small escort fleets. I was thinking this is going to be doomed. They're not going to do anything. But what they were doing with those small, like 5-ship destroyer fleets was basically provoking the submarines to attack, and then they would come in with the aircraft to sink them. Because once they've been spotted by the ships, the aircraft can just be called in. Exactly.
So, they're doing the little bait and switch with the cheap DDs, which, to be fair, is a smart strategy. The only problem is most players will refuse to send their navies into tiles where they have red air. So you're doing some damage to the submarines, but once again, it's not really a strategy that's usually going to yield you a kill on the enemy's main navy, which is the ultimate goal.
It's actually fairly easily countered, particularly by Germany, because they've got some very, very good heavy ship raiders, and those heavy ships will just shred those lightly armored destroyers.
Yeah, what most players do in the current meta is they will refit all their battleships with AA. So what they'll do is they'll take off all the heavy guns and just replace them with AA slots. And I've actually seen this in I think 1 or 2 games where players would purposely just sit their battleships in areas where they had red air if they knew that the enemy were starting to run out of attack bombers, just to actually kill their attack bombers and then be able to just send in their main fleet and go and schwack whatever it is they had in that region. So committing fully on the attack bombers and not building up your heavy ships or refitting them or building these light attack cruisers, it can actually come around to bite you in the ass pretty easily if you're not wary of what the enemy's up to.
So I'm just getting a lot of comments about the Raffle. Are you currently running the Stellaris Raffle on your channel?
Yep, I'm actually still running the Stellaris Raffle. We're going to be running it for a while yet. If you want to actually go on and join the Raffle, you're going to have to come over to my chat. You're going to have to follow the channel and write !Raffle in chat. And within an hour or so, we're going to grab our first winner and move on to the next key.
And bear in mind, that's over on Big Schmo's channel. I've just put a link to it in the chat on Paradox and also my channel. So that's where that is taking place. We will be hosting some other giveaways, including some more Hearts of Iron 4 merchandise, which was very popular last week. But that's going to be a little bit later on. We're doing the Stellaris stuff first.
If you remember what we said in 1938 about the spy agencies, Germany's just started to upgrade them. They formed the cryptology department and they've got interrogation techniques. So more players are starting to hop into the spy game. It's no longer just the French.
Yep, it was France and Italy early on. Germany is in, Britain isn't, USSR isn't, Japan isn't, USA is, and their one spy is currently in jail. Canada isn't.
I'll give the USA this much. Once again, they're making me happy with their naval build because I'm seeing nothing but light attack CAs. So they are well prepared to take on whatever Italy's going to throw at them if the Royal Navy and the other allied assets don't take care of it before they get the chance to come in. I am curious, though, if there are any interesting things going on in terms of research anywhere. I think we're literally just looking at a box standard game here. We've got the Raj rushing artillery and guns, not yet, but they should be soon, which is typical. Obviously, usually you'll have your Raj player go full infantry. What they'll do first is take over Ethiopia, and then they just either A, help out in North Africa, or B, set up along this river line here to protect themselves from the co-prosperity sphere. I think Siam will probably be doing the same thing. Let's see if they're in their guns research. They haven't actually started yet, which is odd. Usually Siam is the nation you use for the co-prosperity sphere, the Rush Guns 3, and I'm not seeing that yet, but might still happen. They've instead decided to go for doctrine effort. Interesting decision, but I'm sure they've got a reason for that. One thing of course, Australia is going to go into Marines again. I figured that they would do that. Australia actually came up with an interesting template a few games ago, and I'm curious if we're going to see that again. Instead of fully focusing on special forces, they decided to do a mix of like normal infantry divisions and special forces to still minimize the debuff you get when you naval invade, but also be able to put a 40 whiff template in the field. And I think we might see that again, but we'll have to wait until the war starts to actually confirm that.
Sorry, just to take over for a second. We've got National Spain just launched a massive naval invasion of the southern Republican Spain, so it looks like they're going to start trying to push out and actually go for a couple of victory conditions rather than just grinding the experience as they have been thus far.
I mean, one key here is I am not sure. Oh, the anarchists are good. I am not sure if they already took care of the Carlist Uprising. We'll have to see how far they are in the focus tree. I think they have actually. Yep, they've done fuse the parties. But if that wasn't the case, they would obviously try to rush Madrid and Toledo to make sure that they don't get Carlist Uprising. However, the Spanish player seems to have his focus ordered down, and they are no longer at risk. So I think that we're probably going to see the end of Spain soon.
Yeah, I think that Spain is actually probably the player on the Axis team that's learned the most from virtually being wiped out and almost being knocked out of the game in the first game to actually being very, very solid. They've clearly got a lot of practice under their belt and have improved quite dramatically.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing some very good volunteer deployment from the Axis here. We've got, of course, the Bulgarians in the east coming in and they're pushing. We've got the Italians and the Germans down the center. And, I think we might, we've got a Soviet encirclement. Look at that. We've got 3 Soviet mountaineers encircled. And I think they're going to be smart about this, and I think they're going to leave them there. I mean, those are 3 volunteers that the Soviets... No, they're going to kill them? That's interesting. I mean, the thing is with volunteers, right? You cannot recall them. So if they're encircled, you're not allowed to delete them. Can't reuse those slots, and it does seem like they're going to go in for the kill. It's curious.
I like it. 1 down, 2 down, 3 down, dead.
There you go, dead. Traditionally, I think players would have actually left them there and just moved on so that the Soviets wouldn't be able to send more volunteers, but... Oh, there we go. The Italians just disappeared because they just declared war in Yugo. That explains it.
And ordinarily, Italy would just try to punch through the northern land connection to Ljubljana. They'd also bring in Bulgaria and Hungary to open up extra frontage. And I've never seen this Italy actually do a naval invasion of Yugoslavia, which can be one good way of knocking them out. They do tend to just try and get this war over as quickly as possible and just take the territory and the factories. Although they've got a cut-off. Ljubljana, 12 units.
Oh, what? He just got inserted. Oh, by 1 mountaineer. That's unfortunate. I think they're going to solve it soon. There you go. Yeah, they called in Hungary, and I think they're going to call in Bulgaria as well a little later, just so that the divisions were focused on their front, and I think the Hungarians are just going to push through in a moment, whenever the front's thinned out a little.
I think the Hungarians usually just sit there. Their entire job is just to pull the divisions away from the Italian front.
Yep. So what is he attacking with? Okay. I don't think he's going to need special pushing divisions here. He's just using box standard units because at the end of the day, the Yugoslavians are AI here. The AI doesn't tend to really upgrade to meta templates, at least not this early on in the game. So I think they're going to be fine. They're just going to have a breeze, you know, have a little walk through Yugoslavia, enjoy the sights on their way to World War II.
Using even more low-level generals, trying to get them bloodied, and then they've got Bogodolio in charge again. I don't know why they use this Field Marshal as often as they do, because he's got Old Guard, and I hate that trait. Like, if a Field Marshal, especially a Field Marshal, has that, I almost never use them.
Yeah, this is actually curious.
Every game they've used him heavily.
Yeah, sorry, this is something else. I believe the Germans have actually failed to grind adaptable. I see von Kleist only has Hill Fighter, and you obviously need to have two templates, or sorry, two templates. What am I even saying? You need to have two traits regarding the terrain traits. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. To get adaptable. Adaptable, obviously, giving you that insane movement bonus and terrain penalty reduction, which is essentially movement bonus, and the acclimation factors. And the Germans, like they've got two Mountaineers, but I'm not seeing, or well, a Mountaineer and a Hill Fighter, but nobody with two traits. That's interesting. I wonder if that's a mistake. I assume it is, but
where's Monteufel gone? He's the one that they usually train. There he is. So Monteufel, no terrain traits whatsoever. He's over halfway on Hill Fighter. But that's the only one.
I mean, obviously any traits they fail to grind in the SCW, they're probably going to try to grind in Poland, I would assume. But it seems like the Italian grind is actually going to a lot better than the German one. I mean, I think we confirmed earlier that the Italians, I'm just going to check this real quick, but they do have their double adaptable. I think they do. Let's have a look. Yeah, like they've got adaptable on Messe, they've got adaptable on Sadu, they've got adaptable on Graziati. They've got 3 adaptable field marshals.
Yeah, I've got to say, like, the Italian general grinding is on point. That's, like, whereas Germany's general work is probably his weakest, Italy's is probably his strongest, and I think that's part of the reason why these two countries work so well together.
Yeah, and this is actually even more interesting. If you look at the Italians, they're currently grinding Prasca, who, along having Hill Fighter, actually already has 61% Mountaineer. So I think they might actually get a 4th adaptable general. Well, obviously it will be their only general, but 4 like high command with adaptable. That's impressive. That's a good job from the Italians.
Well, I think the Italians usually promote a lot of field marshals. They can get him the offensive doctrine for the +1 attack.
Yeah, Italy,
because that always applies even if they're not a field marshal.
By the way, Italy does not have totem up. They do not seem to have tried to game the system to get totem up, which is good to see.
They did in every other game.
Well, not in this one, because I'm currently looking at it that says war economy, so
yep.
They haven't gone for it, it seems. The Italians also seem to have stalled their advance. I'm wondering if that is because they are trying to grind more trades. I think it might be.
Quite possibly, seeing that Germany wasn't succeeding in the way that they wanted to. And also, Spain is looking well and truly chewed up at this point, so
yep.
I think it's the last days for the Civil War.
Also, in the meantime, by the way, something we have neglected to mention, Japan has indeed invaded China, and we are looking at a... I think this is a standard play with... Yep, okay, so what the Japanese are doing is... One very big thing in this tournament is that the United States is restricted from sending any type of attaché early in the game before they've done the focus, the Giant Wakes. And It is nigh impossible for the US to get this focus done because of that. Usually you would use the 10% war support boost you get from an attaché to get the Giant Wakes in 1938. That's not available. However, there's an alternative way that the US can get war support early, which is Japan escalating the war. Now, they've got a button here. This is because the Japanese start with a debuff in the war in China that essentially has their damage reduced by 50% or something. I think it's like 50 or 40%. We can actually see it here. The modifier is called, actually don't remember. Marco Polo Bridge Incident. There you go. It gives them a -40 attack bonus and a -20 defense bonus. So to get rid of that, you have to escalate the war in China, but that gives the United States base war support, right? Now, a key thing here is that they have a puppet. The Japanese do. It's called Manchu. And Manchukuo doesn't have the same debuff. So what a lot of Japan players do is they try to avoid escalating tension so that the United States can't get their focus to wake up. And they do this by essentially giving the entire Japanese army away to Manchu and just letting Manchu fight the China War for them. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of units here, which are technically Japanese but have a Manchu flag on them.
And another thing I've seen with this as well is they try to avoid the Panay incident, I think it is, where they get Manchu to do all the naval invasions instead of Japan. Because if Manchu owns the east coast rather than the Japanese, then that incident doesn't happen, and that's some war support which the USA does not then get.
Yeah, alternatively, they also tried to give away states. So the event only triggers if I believe the full state has to be held by Japan, or like key parts of the state. I don't even remember exactly which state it is. I think it's somewhere around Shanghai.
Yeah, it's Shanghai, and it's basically those ones in that area. So it's Shanghai, Zhejiang. I don't think it's further north. I think it's those.
And another way of preventing it is simply the second you get any type of occupation, just give it over to Manchu. And it's kind of risky, but usually you'll still prevent the incident. Also, I don't think we're going to see any collabs in China because the Japanese don't have any spy agency, and obviously Manchu does. But, oh, nope, they're actually creating collabs. Okay. Wait, huh? Oh, sorry. I don't know how I ended up Germany, but somehow I ended up Germany. No, okay. Sorry, I have no idea how that happened, but no. Manchu doesn't have any spies either. Is there a German province here?
No. In Kaiserreich there is, but in this, no.
Yeah. I just control-clicked on Manchu and I ended up getting Germany. I'm not sure how that happened, but whatever.
Kaiserreich Weekly have imported us into Kaiserreich. Sneaky!
Sneaky bastards.
Meanwhile, the nationalists have now won the Spanish Civil War. It is over.
Yep, and as we guessed, we've got the Bulgarians coming in later to the war against Yugoslavia, and they're now moving into the territory in the east, which they'll probably get given to them in the peace conference as well, because they can core it. And we'll probably see Vojvodina and Westbanat get occupied by Hungary, and they'll get that in the peace deal, with Italy taking the rest.
And Italy is right now attacking Belgrade, which might well be enough to end this.
I think it will be. I actually don't know what their status is. They're 6% away from capping, so whatever their next victory point is. I think it's Novi Sad, and then it's over. And there are so many puns that I can make with that, but I'm gonna relent.
Italy is slacking on the research. They have 2 completely timed out researches.
Oh yeah, those are not just hanging for... Okay, I don't think they're juggling that. I think they just straight up forgot. That is not good, Italy! Come on, guys!
And Italy's gone for the land... Actually, that makes sense. Yeah, the surface ship bonuses and interdiction. I just saw they got bracket shooting. I was like, that's a focus I don't see very often.
I mean, bracket shooting isn't the one that buffs your battle cruisers and battleships passively?
Yeah, it's the left side of interdiction. So surface. Left is surface, middle is convoy escort, and then right is submarine. Always.
Oh, apparently Penne has been removed from the mod. I actually didn't know that, but it's not in here at all. According to people in chat. Not sure if that's 100% correct, but...
well, they certainly play like it is, because I've definitely seen Manchu doing all of the naval invasions, even if Japan was doing the main attacks in the north.
I think it might just be muscle memory in that case.
Quite possibly.
Alright.
I was mistaken. Submarines are actually the middle column on base strike. Why does base strike have to be so different?
I have no idea. It's the only one where subs aren't on the right side, huh? Oh, yeah. It is.
Like, Fleet and Being and Trade Interdiction, exactly the same setup, just different bonuses. Base Strike's like, no, I'm going to be different.
Maybe that's just Paradox, having a laugh about our expense, who knows?
Maybe.
No idea. I'm not seeing anything too spectacular from the Italians yet. They have still... Oh my god, they've got 4 idling research slots.
Oh, Italy!
What are you guys doing?
You just finished the war. We should have loads of time.
Click it, please. Click something.
I can't focus either.
I can't watch this. I can't watch this. I'm moving away. Right, so we got the French.
They're even doing decisions. Just not tech.
I mean, it might be some kind of next level 5-head, 400 IQ juggle strategy that I don't know about. Let's just leave it at that.
I'm going to leave it open because I want chat to be weeping. Like, feel our pain here, chat. This is painful. The fourth one is almost finished.
Okay, this is interesting. I'm looking at the UK, and they have decided to make 20 whips without shovels. There are no engineers in these 20 whips. Obviously, you kind of always want to put engineers in defensive divisions because they add to entrenchment. Entrenchment obviously being a defensive bonus. And seeing the UK not use that is a little strange, but when it comes to their economy, though, they have done as we said they would. They're currently 39 out of 66 on Fighter 2s with 90% of their economy going there. That's good to see.
That's now 4. They have 4 fully wasted slots.
Oh my.
Oh, they just noticed. Oh, thank you, Italy.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Alright. In the meantime, we obviously have... Okay, no, United States, why are you doing this?
What are they doing?
I don't like this. They're building heavy tank ones. Like, what are you building them for?
Even I know there's a terrible...
I mean, something I actually have noticed, and this is what he might be doing. He might be producing them to lease them to SAF, but even SAF is going to get heavy tank 2s at some point.
Possibly to convert them into SPGs or something, but...
I mean, I don't think I've seen heavy SPGs.
Tank destroyers, you could.
Yeah, but I don't think I've seen heavy SPGs ever in a competitive game. And on the US again, it is currently the 15th of January, 1939, and I'm not seeing any research into the heavy tank 2. So we are definitely not going to see an early D-Day from the US unless they decide to go on and license the USSR tanks again, which I think they might be doing again. USSR, by the way, is now on the heavy 3, and they're 800 days away from it.
And I think that's a huge mistake. Like, the reason the game has ended in both of the previous ones I've seen is because the Soviets fell. The Soviets are under so much pressure that they need that extra help, and if America's not planning to give it, then they've already thrown the game right there.
Yep. And one thing, obviously this is because the Soviets probably don't have, they don't have lessons of war yet, is I think the Germans are going to beat them to the heavy 3s. They currently have the IS with 800 days away, but the Germans, who obviously get their bonus from Army in 02, they are 10% ahead of the USSR, and they're only 501 days away from getting the heavy 3. So we might actually see the Germans get the heavy 3 earlier and build up way more efficiency and possibly be able to outskill the USSR early and take them in an early war.
That is unusual.
Well, I mean, it depends on how long it takes for the USSR to get the bonus from Lessons of War and how long it takes for them to actually get the heavy tanks in the field. And because Germany has to contribute to the Axis Air Force, as you can see with them currently having 66 factories on Focke-Wulfs, they probably won't be able to make much use of this, this early rush they have. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Sorry, the 2-minute delay is obviously kicked in because chat's just in tears right now. I just left it open on the Italian research screen.
Yep. I'm seeing the same in my chat. We're sorry, guys. It's not our fault. Blame them. Harass them about it after the game. We're suffering just like you are. And speaking of I think you'll be happy if you were to take a look at the Romanian research screen. Currently doing XCAV 3 and fuel refining 3. Good boy, Romania.
Yeah, as Romania was doing fine. It's Iraq that wasn't doing it before.
Oh, Iraq. Sorry, I thought you were talking about.
No, Romania was an absolute boss, but Iraq, nothing. Yeah, still nothing.
Yep, he's just got.
He doesn't even have construction. What are you doing?
He's also building military factories with 2 civs. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Iraq is an optimist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, thank you for the raid, Mr. Gameplay Starter. Thank you very much.
I'm actually shocked. Isn't construction the first technology you should get? It always is in my build lists.
I mean, yes and no. If you're let's put it this way: we've got Iraq here with 6 mills. At this point, I would say he would get more out of machine tools because of the fact that it increases the efficiency on the factories you actually have. If you're playing a nation with absolutely no civs but a decent amount of mills, it's actually not that bad of an idea to skip construction, especially considering you only have X amount of research slots, to instead make the factories you do have, work harder for you. But traditionally, I would agree with you. Construction is definitely something you want to get really early on.
Yeah, I very often try to actually get my focuses so that I can get the 41 construction as early as possible, but I tend to play as the safer countries like the UK.
Yeah, it really depends on what you play, because I've personally made some guides and wrote some playbooks for certain nations, and I would say, for example, South Africa, who has somewhat of a decent civilian economy, but you don't have that many research slots because of the fact that you have to focus everything on, getting those heavy tanks. You constantly have them being researched, and we'll talk about this in a second. It is actually better to focus on getting efficiency, and multiple nations have the same thing, where you want to use your bonuses to actually rush 1941 efficiency, so that the equipment that you're trying to mass produce, as the factories that are on it work harder for them. And sorry, I'm just going to continue on for a second. The reason I gasped is, I don't know why, but for some reason South Africa is making their own mechanized, and they've only got 4 factories on tanks. I don't know if I like that. They're going to be mechanized heavies, but he's not going to have a lot.